Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to peel back about 2,000 years of history to get to know a monumental figure. But we're not talking about the saint you see in stained glass windows. We're talking about the man he was before he became a legend.
You know, history knows him as Peter, the rock of the church, an absolutely pivotal figure in Christianity. But here's the thing. He started out as Simon, a fisherman from Galilee. And these aren't just two names. We're talking about two completely different lives here. So that's the big question, right? How does a regular guy, a fisherman, become the foundational apostle? Well, to really understand the legend, you have to meet the man first. Okay, let's dive into this.
All right, let's start with the most basic thing about him, his name. Because, and this is key, in his story, a name change wasn't just a small detail. It signaled a massive shift in his entire purpose. So, he was born Simon, super common Hebrew name back then, and it means he has heard. And it's kind of perfect, right? It speaks to his heritage, a life spent listening, first to the sounds of the sea and the marketplace, and later to something much, much bigger. But then Jesus steps in and gives him this new name, Cephas in Aramaic, which is Peter in Greek. And both of them mean rock. Now, this wasn't just some casual nickname. This was a declaration. It was basically Jesus saying, you are going to be the foundation of something huge. And you've got to understand, this is a huge deal in biblical tradition. When you get a new name from God, think of Abram becoming Abraham, it's a game changer. It means your entire identity, your whole destiny is being rewritten right then and there. Simon's life was literally being pointed in a brand new direction. Okay, so his name points to this incredible new destiny, but to really get the guy who received that name, we need to rewind. We have to go back to his world, to the demanding, physical life of a Galilean fisherman. See, he wasn't just some character in a story. This was a real dude with a real life. He was the son of Jonah, his brother was Andrew. He was born in Bethsaida, a little fishing village, and lived in Capernaum, which was a pretty busy town right on the Sea of Galilee. He was a family man, deep roots in his community. And let's talk about his job, because being a fisherman back then was no joke. This was grueling, back-breaking work. You needed raw physical strength, you had to be tough as nails to deal with the weather, and you had to know that water like the back of your hand. That kind of work makes you practical, it makes you patient, it makes you tough. And here's something that a lot of people get wrong. Simon wasn't some poor, struggling laborer. All the signs point to him being, well, a small business owner. He owned his own boat. He was in a partnership with James and John. He was basically part of the working middle class, a guy with responsibilities, a real stake in his town. Okay, so we know where he's from and what he did for a living, but what was he like? What was his personality? This is where his story gets really, really interesting. Because he was, let's just say, perfectly imperfect. What's amazing is how all the accounts of him paint a really consistent picture. This was not a quiet, sit-in-the-corner kind of guy. No way. He was impulsive, the type to leap before he looked. He was vocal, always the first one with a question or a bold statement. And he was just deeply emotional, a man of action, wearing his heart on his sleeve. I mean, you see this incredible boldness just jump off the page. Remember this moment? He's in a boat, in a storm, and his first thought isn't just have faith, but to act on it in the craziest way possible, to literally ask to walk on water. That's pure, uncut faith and impulse all rolled into one. But, and this is so important, that same passionate guy was also capable of this profound, almost crushing humility. Right after a miracle, his reaction isn't, wow, I'm special. It's, get away from me, I'm not worthy. He saw his own flaws so clearly, especially when he was face to face with something he saw as divine. That's some serious self-awareness. So you've got this passionate, flawed, hardworking guy, but there was something else going on inside him, a deep spiritual hunger. It's so clear that when the call came, the soil of his heart, so to speak, was already tilled and ready. You have to remember, his decision didn't just come out of nowhere. The whole culture at the time was buzzing with this expectation of a Messiah. And on top of that, his own brother, Andrew, was already on a spiritual search, following John the Baptist. So when Andrew comes to him and says, we found him, it's like the final piece of the puzzle clicking into place. It was a mix of cultural hope, family influence, and his own readiness. So here's the takeaway. His quick yes wasn't just him being impulsive again. It was coming from this deep, pre-existing spiritual longing. He was already looking for something more. That's why he recognized it when he saw it. His heart was primed for a message that would change everything.
Okay, so how do all these pieces fit together? The fisherman, the passionate personality, the spiritual seeker. Let's connect the dots and see why this ordinary, kind of rough around the edges guy was the absolute perfect choice for this incredible mission. Think about it. Everything we just talked about, his toughness from being a fisherman, his passionate, all-in personality, even his sharp awareness of his own weaknesses, those weren't things to be overcome. They were the essential raw material. They were exactly what was needed for the job. And his story really shows us three powerful ideas. First, he was chosen for his potential, not because he was already perfect. That's huge. Second, his new identity, becoming Peter, completely redefined his purpose. And third, and this is maybe the coolest part, his totally ordinary life became the foundation for a mission that would change the world. And there's no better symbol for this than his fishing nets. His old life wasn't just thrown away, it was transformed. It was given this powerful new meaning. The very nets he used to catch fish became this incredible metaphor for his new mission. The skills he learned on the water were about to be used on a much, much bigger stage. And that kind of leaves us with a pretty powerful thought to chew on, doesn't it? Simon Peter's story seems to suggest that the most ordinary parts of who we are, our jobs, our personalities, maybe even the things we see as flaws, could actually be the raw material for our own unexpected potential. So it makes you wonder, right? What in your life is just waiting to be transformed?